I really wanted to be open, and yet part of me felt closed off. Raising Annika was our business, not hers.
Yeah, mind your own business, lady.
Yeah. I wanted to show up like a secure, mature adult, but I'll be honest, there were times I wrestled with insecurity and even resentment, especially when Annika genuinely enjoyed spending time with her.
Sure. Welcome to the Blended Family Breakthrough Podcast. We're your hosts, Mike and Kim.
We believe in a world where blended families can experience a future full of hope, connection, and peace.
That's why we offer tools, strategies, and guidance that move you from a place of confusion and conflict to experiencing a life of confidence and connection.
We're so glad you're joining us for authentic and sometimes comical conversations as we cover everything from romance to parenting, and yes, even dealing with that difficult ex.
So if you're ready to experience breakthrough in your blended family, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Hey there, friends. Welcome to another Tuesday with Mike and Kim on Blended Family Breakthrough. Or it might be a different day that you happen to be listening to this, but it's dropping on Tuesday. And we are just so grateful for the time that you choose to spend with us each week. We know that you've got people in your life who also need some resources. And so we don't know where you're at. Maybe you're on TikTok or on Instagram, or if you're really old like us, you're on Facebook. And we just ask you to share us. Like, take your favorite episode, drop it out there and say, hey, this is one thing I learned from this episode. Because we know people need these resources, not because we, think we're all great. Although I think we're pretty great, but because
We've
we
learned
really,
a lot.
but because we just really want to be able to reach the people who really need help. So, and we need your help to do that. So we call you into that mission with us and ask you to go ahead and share. And of course, give us a 5-star rating, leave your review. We so want to hear from you. But enough of Mike rambling. What do you say we hop in today, honey? Would you like to do that?
I would love to.
Okay. All right. Well, get us started.
A few years ago, I was sitting next to a total stranger on an airplane when we just struck up one of those conversations that people have just to kind of make the time go a little faster while you're sitting on a plane. So this woman beside me, she started sharing little bits and pieces of her story. And it did not take long for me to pick up on the fact that she was a single mom with a young daughter. So as the conversation moved beyond the surface level stuff, and she learned what I do, supporting people in divided and blended family dynamics, she opened up about what was really on her heart. And then she told me about a recent situation that's caught her completely off guard. Out of the blue, her daughter casually mentioned Daddy's new girlfriend.
Ooh.
And then went on to describe an activity they had all done together and how much fun they'd had. So as the passenger next to me replayed that moment, I noticed some tears began to fill her eyes. She paused, she took a deep breath, and then she said, after our breakup, I knew that we would both move on. I just didn't expect it to feel so overwhelming. I keep trying to tell myself it's not a big deal. This is normal. But picturing my little girl hanging out with my ex and another woman, well, it's kind of wrecked me. And I'm still trying to come to terms with it all.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, she was really struggling. Now, as our conversation continued, she shared that she'd been dating someone as well, but she didn't feel ready to introduce him to her daughter. Not yet, not until she was confident that the relationship was actually going to go somewhere. And as we talked all the way until the plane landed, it became clear she was carrying a heavy weight. It was true that some old grief had resurfaced around her ex, but there were also some newer, less familiar emotions that were rising up for her. Things like jealousy, uncertainty, exclusion, insecurity, and her full-blown mama bear protective instinct was kicking into overdrive,
That's
of
right.
course, It sounded like her mind had been spinning with a whole bunch of questions and it just wouldn't shut off. Things like, who is this woman? What are her intentions? Is she safe? Is she a positive influence or not? What if she doesn't have good intentions towards my ex? Or what if she's emotionally unstable and my daughter gets pulled into their mess? What if she's toxic or negative influence on my little girl and puts her in harm's way? So many questions just swirling around, laced with anger and disappointment. Why didn't my ex tell me that my daughter would be spending time with this other woman? How is it that I'm only now finding out he even has a girlfriend? Does she have kids too? How long have they been dating? Are they serious? And if so, how serious?
Man, that is quite the unexpected in-flight conversation, honey.
It really was.
Gee whiz. Boy, it sounds like she was really feeling confused and not quite sure how she should respond to her ex.
Absolutely. She was doing her best to hold herself together through it all. But you could tell she was wrestling with what the right response should be. After all, she's the mom. It's her job to protect her child and to be aware of what she's being exposed to. But she also knows that she can't control who her ex chooses to date or how they spend their time.
Yeah, so there was some powerlessness in there too, I bet.
Exactly. Now, it was obvious that she wanted to do the right thing in a very awkward situation like this. But she wasn't sure what right even looked like. And all of those painful questions and emotions were crowding her mind.
So sounds like you got to have kind of a little mini coaching session right there on the plane. Did I hear that right?
In a way, I guess. I mostly just listened and affirmed what she was feeling, and I offered a few things for her to consider. But later that night, I couldn't help thinking back to my own story, what it was like when my ex started dating, and especially when things got serious with the woman who would become his second wife. And it's one of those things that's kind of hard to put into words. I really wanted to be open, and yet part of me felt closed off. Raising Annika was our business, not hers.
Yeah, mind your own business, lady.
Yeah. I wanted to show up like a secure, mature adult, but I'll be honest, there were times I wrestled with insecurity and even resentment, especially when Annika genuinely enjoyed spending time with her.
Sure.
I did my best to build a cordial, cooperative relationship with her, but there were moments when she approached things with Annika in ways that I would not have chosen. And of course, her opinion carried a lot of weight with my ex. That rubbed me the wrong way.
Of course it did, yeah.
And it also made me miss how things used to be before she came along. So from the outside, I really did try to take the high road. I was welcoming and supportive. I even attended their wedding and wished them well, mostly because they invited me. But I'll admit, there was a part of me that secretly reveled in a little showstopper moment that Annika pulled off during their wedding ceremony. When she spotted me in the audience, she abandoned her post on stage, ran down the aisle straight into my arms, and curled up in my lap. That wasn't supposed to happen. But inside, I was glad it did.
Yeah.
I'm not proud of that. It's one of those moments that makes me realize, maybe I wasn't actually on the high road I wanted to believe I was on.
Yeah, you were kind of inadvertently sticking it to him. And you weren't even doing anything. You were just sitting there, yeah.
I reveled in it, though.
Yeah. So it sounds like you had actually quite a lot of mixed emotions and probably some grief in there, too.
Yeah, and the hardest part was that I didn't know much about this woman. I didn't know her background, her character, her temperament. But I had to accept the reality that she was part of my daughter's life now. And as much as I wanted to unleash my protective mama bear instinct, I had to rein it in because I knew the best thing I could do for this situation and for my daughter's well-being was to work toward gaining an ally, not creating an enemy.
Gaining an ally, not creating an enemy. That's great. So, honey, I wasn't really around in the early days when your ex first started dating that woman that would become Annika's stepmom. But from what I experienced when you and I started dating, which was shortly after they got married, actually,
Right.
you handled yourself really well. Like the two of you are actually growing into, I thought, a strong cooperative alliance. And I know things shifted many years later during our season of parental alienation, but for quite a long time, you and Annika's stepmom were cordial and cooperative for the most part.
Yeah, that is true. But it took intentional effort on my part to show up well so that we could become allies. And you know what? It was not easy or always smooth, that's for sure.
Right. Okay. So let's talk about how to manage yourself in those moments of confusion and mixed emotion. When you're confronted with what you and that mom on the plane experienced, these unanswered questions and big feelings and that protective instinct kicking in. Maybe you're hesitant or doubtful, or even some people might be disinterested in meeting this new person at all. And when you say, work toward gaining an ally with your ex's new partner, I'm guessing some of our listeners are thinking, why would I do that? Why is that even necessary?
Yeah. And that's a valid question. So let's start by sharing the top 3 reasons why an ally is always better than an enemy.
Okay.
This is important.
Top 3 reasons. Number 1, a cooperative co-parenting approach is critical to your child's overall well-being. Number 1. If you want to preserve or even strengthen the cooperation you have now, you'll need to accept this new person as part of the broader co-parenting team. Now, I know, for many of us, it seems like it would be a whole lot easier if step-parents just stayed out of it and let the biological parents handle all the parenting. But frankly, that's just unrealistic. Why? Because step-parents in either home are inevitably impacted by the parenting decisions being made. Decisions about the children's social life, school, activities, emotions, behavior, mental health, day-to-day responsibilities and routines, those types of things don't just stay neatly contained. They affect schedules and household rhythms and finances and family life in real time. And whether you like it or not, your ex's new partner is going to have influence in the home. They'll share observations, concerns, opinions, and suggestions with your ex. They'll collaborate with your ex about how to respond to issues as they come up. They'll collaborate about how to respond to you.
Yeah.
They will have a voice. And often, because they're a step removed emotionally, step parent, right? They can sometimes even bring a more objective perspective and can sometimes bring some valuable insight.
Absolutely.
So, if your goal is a cooperative co-parenting relationship, as we're suggesting, then part of that goal is being willing to welcome the incoming step-parent into the co-parenting equation at a reasonable level.
On the flip side, if you're unwilling to do that and you end up as enemies every time a parenting decision needs to be negotiated, your ex will inevitably get stuck in the middle of 2 opposing sides. And sooner or later, they're going to feel pressure to choose. And let's be honest, it probably won't be you. It'll likely be the person they're in love with and most invested in staying connected to. If you become the enemy in the other home, you'll be putting yourself at risk of losing your influence and losing the ability to collaborate well with your ex.
That's right. When it comes to parenting across households, having an ally is always better than having an enemy.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's the first one. It's about your co-parenting coalition for the benefit of the kids.
Here's the second reason. You want to protect your kids from getting stuck in a loyalty bind. So you'll need to show acceptance towards your ex's new partner, your child's potential step-parent. A few weeks ago, we released episode 229 on the heavy burdens kids carry. And this is a big one. A loyalty bind is the pressure a child feels between their loyalty to a biological parent and their connection with a step-parent. When a child is caught in that bind, they can start to believe that enjoying a step-parent or receiving love from them means that they're betraying or hurting their biological parent in the other home. So they feel caught between mom and stepmom or dad and stepdad. And even when kids like a step-parent, they may keep them at arm's length because they don't want to wound you. Without realizing it, they can end up carrying the heavy burden of trying to manage your emotions, which is something a child should never have to do. Here's the hard truth. Parents can unintentionally feed a loyalty bind and add that heavy burden to their children when they badmouth a step-parent or when they show disapproval if their child shares positive experiences from the other home. We heard one story of a 5-year-old boy who said to his stepmom, "Is it okay if I love you when I'm here at Daddy's and I hate you when I'm with my mom?" That is a tremendous burden for any child to have to carry because what kids really need is the freedom to enjoy and to love and connect in both their homes, and they deserve that.
That's right. But your kids will have a hard time finding that freedom if you position the step-parent as the enemy and you show up in this dismissive, critical, or demeaning attitude toward them. When it comes to protecting your kids from the heavy burden of a loyalty bind, being allies is always better than being enemies. And you'll find a link to episode 229 in the show notes to learn a little bit more about the impact of those loyalty binds on kids, as well as an episode 161, which uncovers the pitfalls of something called parentification. That's when a child feels responsible for a parent's emotions. So you might want to go check those out.
Absolutely. Okay, so the 3 reasons you want your ex's new person to be an ally rather than an enemy is, first, to preserve your co-parenting coalition. Second, to protect your child from undue burden. And finally, third, your child may be gaining one more safe, caring adult. Whether you like it or not, this person is going to spend time with your child. And if their motives are good, which very often they are, that can actually be a gift. It's one more set of eyes watching for a speeding car when your child crosses the street. Or one more adult who can make an after-school snack, patch up a skinned knee, help them study for a big test, and make sure the backpack is packed, including the soccer gear. It's one more person who can pick them up after practice when your ex is stuck in traffic, or maybe when you are. Because here's the reality. There will be moments when you, and possibly your ex, can't be there. And in those moments, having a cooperative step-parent in the other home means that your child has one more set of hands and feet ready to step in and help when it matters most. And I know for some of you that can be a hard pill to swallow.
Right.
It can feel like a stranger is stepping into your role or doing things for your child that you believe their parent should be doing. But a simple reframe might be helpful for you. Think about it this way. If you or your ex had a demanding schedule and needed support, you might hire a nanny or a sitter to help care for the kids. You wouldn't see that person as invading your territory. You'd see them as support. They aren't diminishing your role. In the same way, if you can view an incoming step-parent as an added support person in your child's life, not a threat, you may find it a little easier to manage the emotions that come with this.
That's right. The truth is, if you and that new adult in the other home become enemies, locked in battle, your child will almost always take the biggest hit. We hear stories all the time from step-parents who genuinely want to love and care for their stepchild, but struggle to keep resentment at bay when animosity and venom are aimed at them from the child's other parent. And if that biological parent has intentionally or unintentionally fed into that loyalty bind, it only intensifies the challenge because kids often respond by distancing from or maybe rejecting that step parent, not because they want to, but because they feel the pressure to protect, appease, or even emotionally take care of the other parent.
Yeah. So when it comes to your child's safety, care, and emotional well-being while they're in that other home, having an ally is always better than having an enemy.
Mm-hmm.
So there are other reasons
Yep.
why being allies is so much better than being enemies, but those are the big three.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. And you can choose to work toward being allies for your sake too. So you can experience more peace and contentment, right? Because if there's any chance this relationship becomes serious, this person may be in your child's life for a really long time, which means, like it or not, they're going to be part of your world through that co-parenting partnership. They're going to influence that. And wouldn't you rather be able to exhale a little and have a little more peace as your kids move between the homes? I think your kids would absolutely prefer that as well.
Yes. Yeah. Also keep in mind that over time, step parents can bring a lot of value into a stepchild's life. Beyond the practical stuff, they can help shape character, offer steady guidance, and become a genuinely positive influence. And honey, that's what you have been for Annika throughout her life.
Thanks, hon. Yeah. You know, we hear from step parents every day, so many of them who truly want to show up well and make a meaningful, positive impact. So try to stay open to the why behind all this. There are good reasons it's better to be allies, but we also know it isn't easy, right, honey?
Yeah, that's right. It takes effort and it takes a lot of self-control to be able to show up well, both with your ex and their new partner, especially when you first realize this relationship is real and that your kids have either already met them or soon will be meeting them. So let's talk about that. How can you put your best foot forward and show up well, even when you feel blindsided with confusion and mixed emotions? When you're confronted with all those unanswered questions and your protective instinct is kicking in.
And we've heard a lot of stories from parents who really struggle in that moment, just like that mom on your flight, hon.
Yeah.
And there are a few common traps that you're going to want to avoid, like overreacting or assuming the worst or projecting. As an example, maybe you had a really hard relationship with a step parent growing up. And without realizing it, you start assuming that your kids are going to experience the same thing. But if you get stuck in that space, overreacting, worst case thinking, projecting, and you respond from there, things will probably go downhill pretty fast.
Yeah. Instead, you want to take some time to process through your pain points. Pick up the phone and call a safe, level-headed friend who's a good listener and not the one who will just agree with you and spin you up more, but the one you can just let it out with. Everything that's spinning around in your head, you can get that up and out. They can handle you naming what you're feeling. You might be overwhelmed, jealous, uncertain, excluded, angry, disappointed, threatened, insecure, powerless, fearful. And you might even have some grief that's resurfacing that just needs to be expressed. Say all those questions you have out loud to your friend, the ones that keep replaying in your mind. Let them come out. Let someone help you normalize them and validate them. And yeah, maybe your protective mama bear needs to roar a little bit, right? But outside of your kids' earshot, please.
Yeah. One of my favorite quotes is, thoughts disentangle themselves as they pass through the lips and fingertips.
So good.
So if no one's available to talk to, grab a notebook or a journal, right? And start writing down what's going on inside. That's passing through the fingertips. Getting those pain points up and out, whether verbally or in writing, helps you to gain some perspective. And it may also be worth processing this with a counselor or a coach, The point is, don't stuff it down and don't let it fester. If you
Yeah.
don't get it up and out, it's going to fester.
Yeah, if you don't talk it out, you'll end up acting it out.
Exactly.
One of my favorite sayings is feel, deal, and heal. Let yourself feel what you're feeling and validate that it's real, and then lean into something that helps you get centered and calms you down. Maybe that's listening to music or taking a bubble bath, going for a walk or a run, maybe meditation or prayer. Something that helps you move beyond the initial spike of emotion and can get you grounded again.
Yeah, now you may not have the time to do a full process like that in the moment, especially if this gets sprung on you during a handoff at your kid's event. But whatever the circumstances, do your best to avoid the common traps of overreacting, assuming the worst, and projecting. Instead, stay open-minded and keep your thoughts and feelings to yourself for now. And if you feel flooded on the spot, fear, anger, that overwhelming urge to get controlling, I have that sometimes, or get hyperprotective,
Right.
try to give yourself permission to just pause. You can excuse yourself, step into a safe, kind of calm space for a few minutes, maybe go to the restroom, go to your car, anywhere where you can just breathe through it, process what's happening inside you before you respond from a place of pain. You'll be glad you did. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, part of processing your pain can also be reassuring yourself with what's true. Because when emotions are loud, staying rooted in truth helps to steady you. So here are a few true statements that you can just try on. No matter who comes in and out of my child's life, nothing can break the loving bond I have with them. That's true. Or try this one. This is a big change, but I have what it takes to stay secure and navigate it well.
Yeah.
Or, right now, my children are safe, I'm safe, and there is no imminent threat or danger.
That's good. Maybe your truth is something like, I'm a competent and involved parent who brings value to my co-parenting relationship. Or my children value me, and they will always need my calm and steady guidance. The point is, you want to find something that genuinely connects with you. A few words, a phrase, a short mantra, something reassuring and comforting that helps you to stay securely confident. It's especially helpful when you're feeling overwhelmed or fearful or confused or just unsure about what to expect.
Now, we know how challenging it is to manage big emotions, especially when our kids are involved. And honestly, 26 plus years ago, when I was facing all of this, without the knowledge and experience I have now, I really struggled. This is not easy. So if I could offer you my best guidance, it would be this. Don't do this alone. Surround yourself with healthy, supportive people. I wish back then that I had had a place to process with others who truly understood what I was going through. People who could come alongside me to offer helpful perspectives and give me the encouragement I needed. And if that sounds like something you need, I just want to invite you to check out our Blending Together community. It's a place where we talk openly and honestly about the confusing and often painful realities of blending. We validate and process through those emotions in a safe space so that we're able to move forward, to take care of ourselves, and to show up in ways that lead to the best possible outcomes for everyone. So if you're interested, just click the link in the show notes and join us. You don't have to go through this alone.
That's right. So first and foremost, we're processing those pain points and regulating our emotions. Next, we want to get ready to wheel out the welcome wagon.
What?
Yeah, exactly. That's like the next step. Wheel out the welcome wagon.
But I don't feel very welcoming at all.
Yeah, I bet.
In fact, I'm feeling kind of unfriendly and honestly a little cold.
I know. Like, this is really a big ask, but hear us out for a second. Those first interactions between you and your ex's new partner are huge because that's where the first impressions get formed. And it's way easy on both sides to make snap judgments that lead to misunderstandings or false assumptions. And those little kind of under the radar offenses that might fester and eventually blow up, man, those can be really damaging. Don't let that happen. It can make a real negative impact on your co-parenting relationship, sometimes taking years to repair.
Yeah. The reality is, first impressions matter. So regardless of how you feel, or even how your ex and this new person are treating you, be determined to show up open and welcoming. Even if your welcome wagon only has one flimsy wheel, it's okay. This is one of those fake it till you make it moments that can pay off in dividends down the road, believe us.
Yep.
Don't miss the opportunity to make a good, positive first impression.
That's right. One expert, Gayla Grace, says, mature relationships in blended families require healthy doses of humility. So choose humility, choose maturity. Instead of being assertive or arrogant or prideful, show up with a little humility. And even if you've already had that first impression and maybe you didn't show up the way you want, it might be okay to go back with a little humility and say, let's start that over.
It's never too late.
That's right. And here's a simple definition of humility that we like. It's the absence of a belief that you're better than someone else. That's all. It's just the absence of a belief that you're better than someone else.
And yes, we get it. You're the biological parent, and your status and role in your child's life is elevated, of course.
Yeah.
But ask yourself, is my status and role actually being threatened?
Most of the time, the answer is no.
Right.
Yeah. Your place is secure as a bio parent. So treat this new person who may be in your child's world for a long time with the same type of dignity and respect that you'd want to offer your child's teacher or coach or youth leader. Be curious, not critical. Open, not opposed. Humble, not hot under the collar. That's what maturity looks like in complicated blended family dynamics.
Yeah. Let me offer an example that's outside of these sensitive family dynamics.
Ooh, okay. All right.
So a few years ago, it became clear that I needed to work on my public speaking skills, which is something that's always felt uncomfortable and awkward for me. So I looked into joining a Toastmasters club. And if you're not familiar with Toastmasters, it's an organization that helps people build practical speaking skills through consistent practice and supportive feedback.
Yep.
But here's the thing. It took me 2 years to work up the courage to even make the call to find out about it. And when I finally mustered up the courage and made the call, a woman named Janice answered the phone. I was hesitant. I was doubtful, not sure I belonged or that I even wanted to do this, but Janice eased my tension almost immediately, just by the way she welcomed me and engaged me. She asked questions that felt safe and helpful, nothing probing, nothing intrusive. She was warm and encouraging without being pushy. In that moment, she felt like an ally, someone who could walk with me as I faced a fear that I had been avoiding for a long time.
Yep.
And honestly, it was Janice's welcoming presence that got me to show up to my very first meeting. Now, I've been part of Toastmasters for 3 years now, and I've watched Janice do the same thing again and again, welcoming person after person who walks through the door with nerves written all over them. She's consistently kind, unassuming, and genuinely curious about each person's reason for showing up and committed to helping them take the next step toward their goals. Even though Janice is an accomplished public speaker herself, she's never prideful. She's always humble.
I love that. And we haven't mentioned this today, but sometimes your ex's new person is a little like Kim that was making that call. Nervous, tentative, uncomfortable, just like you might be. So a little kindness and humility in those first interactions can actually go a long way, and those first impressions really matter. The question is, how can you show up in a positive, welcoming way so you can create the best opportunity for your ex's new partner to become an ally instead of risking turning them into an enemy right out of the gate?
Yeah.
So let's go back to Janice for a second. What if, when you first talked to her, she gave off an unwelcoming vibe, standoffish, skeptical, judgmental, maybe even a little competitive? What would your first impression have been then, honey?
Oh, I would have felt put off right away and definitely unwelcome. I probably would have wondered if she had some kind of issue with me or if she was just an abrasive, cold person. I like to think I would have given her a second chance. Maybe she was just having a bad day. But because I was already feeling hesitant and unsure, I might not have been at my best.
Right.
I could have responded unkind or guarded, skeptical, judgmental, maybe even irritated or a little combative towards her in that moment.
Ooh, Toastmasters might have been a little toasty between you two. Yeah. And all of that just from a first impression.
Yep. And there's a good chance I never would have engaged with Toastmasters had that happen, which in the end would have been my loss.
That's right. Now, listeners, don't start thinking, great, I'll just be super unwelcoming and this person will go away. Because the truth is, you don't actually control the outcome of your ex's relationship. And if it does progress into something serious, you've basically just shot yourself in the foot.
Exactly. If the first impression you give is negative, this new person entering into your child's life can form negative beliefs about you from day one. They might assume you're snooty, rude, or disengaged.
Snooty?
Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
And if that unwelcoming pattern continues, they might start to believe that you disapprove of them or you have a personal problem with them, which can feel like an unfair attack.
Yep.
Now they're offended. And once someone feels attacked, they can get emotionally charged, angry, defensive, critical, and they'll often vent their emotional uproar to your ex, maybe even badmouth your character, and that can poison the co-parenting relationship. And the fallout, it tends to seep out straight onto your children, especially if they happen to overhear these negative comments about you in the other home.
Yeah.
In the worst case scenarios, it can pull a child into that loyalty bind that we referred to between you and their step-parent, and that's a burden that no child should ever have to carry.
Yeah, that's right. Bottom line, when you show up with an unwelcoming attitude, it usually costs you. And it can end up costing your child too. So muster up your courage and try to do the right thing by just wheeling out that welcome wagon.
And circling back to my relationship with Janice at Toastmasters one more time, she and I aren't friends outside of meetings. We don't hang out or bond. And that's exactly why I bring it up. Your welcome wagon, it doesn't have to include friendship. It simply needs to be cooperative, courteous, and focused on the shared business of raising well-adjusted kids as they move between two homes. That's it.
Yeah, we're not becoming best friends here.
No.
Yeah.
So we've talked about processing through your pain points and then doing your best to make a positive first impression so you can build an ally, not an enemy, with your ex's new partner. And of course, you're keeping yourself motivated to do that because of these key reasons we pointed out, that it's almost always better to be allies rather than enemies.
That's right. To preserve or even strengthen the cooperation that you already have in your co-parenting relationship. You want to protect your kids from getting stuck in those loyalty binds, and because your child gains one more safe, caring adult who could be a positive influence, which is much more likely when that adult feels respected by you, not rejected or attacked. Ultimately, this is for the kids to create more stability and peace as they move between their homes. And if you want to go a little bit deeper on how to strengthen co-parenting and why it matters so much for children, check out episode 226 that we recently did with Jay and Tammy Daughtry. Just click the link in the show notes and you can check that one out. It's a great conversation.
We've also talked about reining in that overly protective instinct as you get to know this new person and start getting answers to your questions. But let's be clear. This doesn't mean shutting those instincts off, as if that were even possible, right? It means that you thoughtfully wait and watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because just like any adult in a child's world, a teacher, a coach, a youth leader, a babysitter, even a parent or extended family member, there are unhealthy people out there who are capable of abuse and harm. And yes, that can include step-parents sometimes. Now, we don't want to swing to the extreme and cling to the evil stepmom fairy tale bias. But we do want to stay reasonably vigilant, just like you would with any other adult in your child's life. So if you see or hear something that really doesn't sit right, don't overreact or assume the worst or start to project, but do pay attention. Mm-hmm. Watch for patterns that might point to something unhealthy. And as many of you know, I personally had an abusive stepmom. And my biological dad just wasn't able to, for whatever reason, or willing to protect me back then, which was an unfortunate situation for me and my siblings.
And Annika's stepmom became extremely difficult later on as well. A lot of the challenges that came up with her were emotionally based, and they went under the radar for quite a while. And even once I began to recognize these unhealthy dynamics between them, I wasn't sure how to address it. I didn't want to come across as the hypercritical, judgmental, raging mama bear that no one takes seriously. So I kind of just did my best to support my daughter's emotional needs when she shared things that made her feel uncomfortable. But there were things that I could have done to shed light on the situation and to deal with it.
Yep.
And if you want to hear more about that story and also hear some expert guidance on how maybe I should have handled the detrimental pattern of step parentification, we'll link episode 162 in the show notes for you.
That's right. You don't want to come out of the gate already suspicious, constantly scanning for red flags. You want to keep an open mind as you get to know this person and at the same time pay attention to anything that you'll need to keep an eye on. And if at any point you have credible evidence that abuse or neglect is happening, you're going to need to tread carefully and respond from an emotionally regulated place. If you go in hot and heavy with harsh accusations, you could actually make things worse.
Yeah. I once heard a professional who supports parents in suspected abuse situations share that if you directly confront the abuser, especially when the abuser is a caregiver, they may simply take the behavior further underground. Mm-hmm. They can pressure the child to keep secrets and manipulate how the child interprets what's happening.
Yep.
And that can make it even harder for the child to recognize abuse and talk about it honestly.
Yeah, so if you do suspect abuse or neglect, don't try to handle it alone. Seek professional support. There are trained professionals and organizations that can help you to take the right next steps, whether that involves therapy, planning for safety, legal action, whatever it is. Don't try to go it alone.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we've covered a lot today, but there's one more important piece that we don't want to overlook. Maybe you've already guessed it. Boundaries.
That's right.
Wheeling out the welcome wagon, again, doesn't mean you have to become best friends with your ex's new person. And declaring boundaries doesn't mean building a brick wall between your two homes.
That's right.
The goal is clear, appropriate boundaries, the kind that support a healthy co-parenting partnership and protect your kids. So next week in our Simple Step episode, I'm going to unpack what healthy boundaries actually look like in these situations. So make sure you're following the show in Spotify or Apple Podcasts so that you don't miss that.
That's right. And before we wrap up, if you're a step parent and for whatever reason, the relationship between you and your partner's ex is rocky, maybe today's episode has helped shed some light on where things started to go sideways. And if you're wondering how to ease the tension and improve those interactions, we've also linked a few additional episodes in the show notes for you to check out as well. Hey, thanks so much for joining us today. We're going to go ahead and make this episode a wrap.
Until next time.